Good afternoon, survivors. Welcome to look at personalised learning. I'll give you a little, in a moment I'll tell you what's going on, but it's nice and cool in here. But to begin with, I'll take you somewhere that's even hotter than downstairs. About 10 years ago, I went on holiday and I drove around the desert in Namibia. I spent 10 days in a truck, camping, moving around on my own because I'm a sociable kind of guy. On the last day I was driving back towards the airport to drop off all the kit, and I saw a guy at the side of the road, so I pulled over to see if he needed a lift somewhere. He was perfectly comfortable, but he said, sure, I'll jump in. So we got talking. I said, right, so what have you been doing? And he said, I've been looking for diamonds. It's like, okay, not what I expected as an answer to that. He said, yeah, it's my day off, weekend off actually, so I've been out looking for diamonds. I've been out for 3 days. 3 days, 3 nights. He only had a little bag. I thought, this is interesting. He says, well, did you find any? I said, sure. Not a great weekend. And he picked out his little bag, poured them in his hand, and we're in the bumpy truck, and I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't drop all these. I'll be rich or in trouble. And he had about 15 little stones in there. Now, they didn't look like shiny polished diamonds in there. They're in the rough form. Just looks like pieces of glass that are there. But it was really interesting. I thought, well, okay, so how did you do this? I said, well, they're everywhere. The diamonds are absolutely everywhere. They're all over the desert. I just picked them up. Really? So the diamonds are all over the desert and you just pick them up? I said, sure. He said, well, how do you know how to do this? I said, well, for my day job, I work for De Beers, the biggest diamond producers in the world, because Namibia is the home of De Beers and where they have the whole bottom part of the country sectioned off just for their diamonds. I said, I'm a geologist. Diamonds are my thing. So his job was to say, there's probably diamonds over there and go and find them. And that's what he does for a living. So he did okay. And I learned a few things that day. And one was that diamonds are everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. But you can't actually tell them apart from stones. And the other thing I learned was it's really helpful if you're looking for diamonds to have a geologist with you. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Well, my name's Ken Govan. I've been working for Cegos for 15 years now. And my job is to build client solutions, go deliver them, run training programs, I guess, like lots of you do. And you get in some interesting places. Today I'm going to talk about choice. What does choice mean for the learner? What's the impact for a learner? I want to talk about the learning organisation and the challenges that face the organisation and the L&D team, as we're faced with a lot of choice now, so many options out there. And then we'll look at some approaches to personalised learning and how we can make that happen in the real world. It's the world I work in, day out. There's some fantastic things that we're on the verge of moving into. But right now, I'd like to think about, so what can we do today, tomorrow, to get a personal experience for learning? So, when I look for research, I go to the great institutes of the world, and one of those I like is the University of Springfield and Professor Homer. So Professor Homer, in one of his great episodes, there's a new supermarket in Springfield, and the Simpsons get really excited. They've got a Monstromart, where shopping is a baffling ordeal. The choice goes from the floor to the ceiling. The express checkout counters 1,000 items or less. And guess what? By the end of the episode, the Simpsons have gone back to Quickie Mart, because Quickie Mart's the place they know, it's the place they really like, it's their home. And actually that much choice was a little bit overwhelming for them. Now, I read an interesting book which got me thinking about this. And one thing you can think of, if you're going on your holidays like I am quite soon, I went summer reading, recommendations for summer reading. And I saw the Times top 100 books for summer reading. So I open it up, I go through 100 books. How many did I buy? None. 100 was just too many. Couldn't cope with it. And this was a situation that was faced by Barry Schwartz when he wrote his book, The Paradox of Choice. Sorry, I'm right in front of it for you. The Paradox of Choice. Very interesting. It's my one recommendation for summer reading, if you want to take one recommendation to go and do. And he looks at, well, choice is a fabulous thing. What happens when we have too much choice? You may recognize the scene. We go to a local coffee shop. All kinds of options there. And when faced with multiple options, one of the downsides can be that we don't actually make the best decision. So I go to the coffee shop. I end up going, oh, okay, flat white, because that's what I had the last time. Actually, flat white's not so good for me. I really shouldn't be going there. But I just do it. I default into it and get there. I always make that decision, but sometimes we don't make those decisions to purchase. Sometimes we fantasize about there could be something else and something different out there and something better. So what does that mean? When we think about, is it a barrier? Does it help us move into there? The other situation we face, you may have been here yourself. Yeah? We've all decorated houses. We stood there in front of a wall of colour palettes and thought, okay, it's yellow. I'm going to choose yellow. Oh, it's not yellow. That's not yellow. That's not yellow. What's the right yellow for me? Yeah. Now, something that can happen with choice, and particularly where there's significant consequences to your choice. So it's an important choice, and in the book, Barry examines people investing in pension funds. So if I have a range of 5 funds to invest in, I'm more likely to make that decision and go forwards with investing and choosing one of those funds than I am if I have 50 to choose from. And one of the reasons for that is I'm worried that I don't have the knowledge and the expertise to make that decision, so I get paralyzed. I delay that decision. I've delayed a lot of decisions about decorating a house, and you end up going, oh man, just that one. That yellow's fine. But afterwards, is it really? Perhaps I'm living with some of that regret. Yeah, that's quite a yellow to live with, and maybe it wasn't quite the right one. There were better options out there. Yeah. It's okay, so what does that mean for us? Well, let's think about the world of the learner. So, imagine I'm a learner, I'm young, I'm enthusiastic, hard to believe, but there was a time. I'm new to my job, and my job's managing people. Now, those people are based in multiple locations. So, I'm enthusiastic in my job, I'm really keen to learn, and I'm really tech savvy. Cool, off I go. Where am I going to look first? Possibly. Oh. So I go and look in Google. Nice one, remote management skills. I got some options. Amazingly quickly, less than a second, I've got 205 million options for my search. But that's okay, because I'm tech savvy. I'm smart, I'm keen to learn. I'll keep going. And I've got more resources available to me. I've got a fabulous LMS, my organisation. Terrific, great resource. It's right there for me. So I'm going to search here. Remote management skills. That's a real LMS. Yeah? Resources that are available to those learners coming through. Now, of course, there's great strides we've all made in developing learning pathways, machine learning we heard today, really interesting things that are on the way, and I can easily cut that choice down to possibly 10, 20, 50 choices. Okay, I'm still faced with 10 choices at best there when it comes through from my search results. But, good news, what was I? Tech savvy, interested in my job and enthusiastic, and I'm keen to learn. But what if I'm not? What if I'm one of those people in organisations, and imagine the situation where you could have some of those, so what happens? Lack of engagement. So we're not entering that world in the first place. We'll come back and look at the impact of choice and some of those moments of regret as we think about how I progress through my learning once I've selected it. So that's a quick look at the world of the learner, and we'll come back to the learner later. What about the organisation? Well, the organisations are facing massive challenges, and I'm sure today we've heard lots about the dynamics of change in the economy, digitisation, disruption, how we move. PricewaterhouseCoopers run an annual survey. Chief execs, they interview, 1,300 of them. Really useful. Go to their site, download it for free. Great little perspective on what's happening with business leaders and organisations and the challenges they believe they're facing going forwards. Takes you right outside the world of learning and development. Well, it kind of does, up until you look at their top concerns. So this is the list of the top 10 things that chief execs, 1,300 of them, believed posed a threat to growth. Okay, populism, protectionism, geopolitical uncertainty, big topics out there. So this is a conversation of serious people leading some serious businesses. And look at number 3. So if ever learning and development was looking at a time when we can really impact our organisations, feels like now. They're not just concerned about this. 34% of CEOs are extremely concerned about the lack of key skills in their organisation. Okay. And what do they think the impact of that is? Let's have a quick look. The lack of skills in our organisation puts a risk in innovation. That's a big concern for them. Obviously, people costs are impacted if you don't have the appropriate skills in your organisation. You move forwards. And the customer experience, quality standards, that's about a poor customer experience. It comes from it. You know, if this was a conference about customer service, it'd be very interesting. Often in learning and development, we're the recipient of these problems and what do we do about it? But this is a recognition at the top of the big businesses of what are the big problems out there. Now guess what they think? There are multiple ways to deal with that. The top choice for the CEOs, 40% plus, it was the number one choice for the strategy to deal with the gap in skills. Is to invest significantly in retraining and upskilling. There's other options out there. They look at educational pathways and formal education. They look at, do we take skilled populations from our competitors? But they don't come anywhere close to them saying their willingness to invest. Okay, so let's bring it back to the world of L&D and what we've got to face as we move forward over the next few years. So that was PricewaterhouseCoopers. Let's go to friends at McKinsey. They're always good for a number 2. So let me explain this one to you. McKinsey looked at the volume of particular skills used now versus 2030. And they forecast which skills are on the up. Will we spend more time in our organisations utilising or less time? The brown is less, the blue is more. So technological skills in healthcare, big flashing light saying we've massively got to upskill and change technological skills in there. Banking, energy, healthcare, manufacturing, lots of manufacturing. Top 2, social and emotional skills and technical skills. So as learning and development, if we're not addressing these places, then what direction are we heading in? Now, we got a closer definition when we start to look into some of these areas. The World Economic Forum, now 3 years ago, forecast required skills as we move forwards. And some of them change and some go up and down the list. Creativity's moving up. Complex problem solving, really important. But look, this is our world. Service orientation, negotiation, emotional intelligence. Yeah. Things on the move replicate the forecast for where we're heading to in the future. Which is interesting because it gives us a little bit of a dilemma. So I was that manager interested in remote management. Well, cool, maybe for my organisation, people management's in there. But as learning and development, we set the agenda for the skills we've got to develop for our organisations. Meanwhile, we've got me as a learner that may be interested in something completely different. The good news is that's okay, because if I'm passionate about learning, great, I'll go off and learn. But how much responsibility do we hand over for the strategic development of skills in our organisation? Well, so, our responsibility, we've got to turn that strategy into the results. When we report back to the chief execs, they're not particularly interested in anything other than removing those barriers to growth. So the key skills we've got to be addressing, we've just seen. And here's some of the key principles we work to, looking at trends. In Cegos, we're a global organisation, number 1 in Europe. You may not have heard of us, we're a bit of a secret in the UK, but you can dig in and come and talk to us afterwards and find out more. In our European survey, the trends that we're hearing from learning leaders and learners match exactly, and move to agile learning solutions, personalised learning, super important, just in time at the right time. So you've got to have the correct digital assets there and available for people, and easy to find, easy to pull away. But of course, the big one is transfer to the workplace. Because what are we doing if we're not addressing transfer to the workplace? Then we're just having kind of a nice experience. Okay, an approach 2. If we're looking at growing competency level and what happens over time, we know about the learning curve. We also know about Ebbinghouse's forgetting curve. It went all the way down here. Been around a long, long time. The 1800s, he was talking about this. And it's tough. The reason why we can still end up just having those live events, which are super high value, but the attrition rate of the learning is awful, and you drift out the end. It says it's tough to do and to put into practice. And the good news is, over the last 10 or so years, the availability of some supporting tools, digital assets, a platform I can go and draw resource from, that makes a big difference to how we transfer. So when we get into stage 2, and we look at competency transfer, so in the world of L&D, what do we do differently here than we do in here? Okay, part of my blended program may well be knowledge transfer. But within here, it's not really what I'm about. It's about putting it into the practice in the workplace. So I need a different approach to that. There may well be an e-learning solution for here and here, but they need to be different. So if I'm a learner, how do I know that? And how do I know it's the right one to go for? We go back to our diamonds, and it's great. I can go and pick up a lot of rocks, but it might not be the right thing at the right time. Okay, so we could do something great, but if we put it in the wrong place, it's not going to work for us. And we need an entirely different set of tools when it comes to here. So over the long run, what happens next? I'll come back in a moment and we'll look at the importance of my geologist friend that helps us along this journey. Okay. So we as L&D, we look for the right diamonds to put in the right boxes here at the right time and staging that pathway. So what we're doing is starting to take some of that decision and choice away. But you're giving me a more valuable choice. You're taking away some of the stones and leaving only the appropriate things to choose from. So it's somewhat personalised, but it's more a customised pathway at this point that's to do with the strategic direction of the organisation. Okay, so we know about this. I've got all these choices. I've got to take part. Someone's told me this is a great programme. This is the number one. My LMS tells me that's the most popular one, but I've now got 15 different options here to choose from. I've got a library of options here. I better take part in them. Of course, this is called FOMO, the fear of missing out. Then one of the places we want to move to is where, rather than FOMO, as a learner, I'm starting to go to JOMO. Yeah. And some of that threat of that choice has gone from me. It's now the joy of missing out. So, oh my goodness, I don't have to do 14 different modules along the way. So, somewhat we've done the job. So I like to think about this decision structure, that we've got a funnel of decisions to make right from that search option at the beginning. We've taken the top layers away because we've been the geologist. We've guided people down and given them a better choice of options and ways to move through. So guess what? We've moved them down to a menu, and we know that on that menu it works for them. Yeah? It's not the only thing we need to do though. And how do you put this into an agile structure? There's an important moment in that learning pathway when we put in more personalization. And this is when we start shifting from the kind of choice moment, but also into engagement and sustainability of learning. That place that makes the difference between, I've made a good selection, I've chosen some diamonds, but I've fallen off the pathway along the way. I haven't made it to the end. And that's about personalization, personalizing your course. So me as an individual, I know I've got great assets to choose from now. My learning assets and choices are terrific. Our structure for it is at this point, we get 4 options. This is from a collection of programs that's coming out over the next 6 months. And we look at 4 sprints. Briefly, within a sprint, multiple pieces of learning and learning objects. So we've already selected the diamonds in there. But I'm only going to select the 2 that are the highest value for me. We're moving away from this place of massive content, because really we know I'm going to apply some things. And if they're the most relevant, most important for me, then I'm going to put the effort in to see it through to the end of the journey and to stay with it. And how do we get them to that place? Well, back in the restaurant, we're selecting from the menu. We could just go any way we want. Some of the other ways we can go is take some advice. And if you're going to take some advice from people, we take it from the waiter. They know what they're talking about. They know what's fresh and nice that day. And if you trust them, because let's hope you go into a restaurant that you trust, you're going to take their advice. So part of our pathway is adding this importance of the learning expert. So the role of the learning expert's changed quite a lot. My job in this is not delivering a stand-up training program anymore. It's helping people decide what's the best pathway for them as it comes through this route and choice that's been narrowed down. So now it is actually personalized for me. I've got something different from everyone else that's on the program, and it moves my way. But it's complicated. And how do we drive the loyalty and sustain this learning? Well, we know that the restaurant, you've got to have a great structure. Your platform's got to be good. It's got to look good. It's got to feel good. Maybe it's a social aspect. Maybe you're in with other learners in there also. Yeah. But we know that behind the scenes, you need a multiple team. And you need the right people that are supporting you along the way. Roles to think about. Perhaps there's a virtual classroom involved in here. Are your facilitators experts in virtual delivery or face-to-face that are kind of levered in there? Who's the producer? How do you make sure people are engaged really quickly? And that's only in the virtual world. What about my sustained digital pathway and how I keep my momentum going? You need an energizer. So we get people in our business who are energizers. Their job is to make sure they connect with you regularly and just nudge you and keep you engaged. But guess what? That tutor that helped you with the selection at the beginning, they're also coming back again because they stay with you and they're there to support, prompt, answer, discuss with you as you go along. But also, the coaching now becomes a much more realistic option because your investment in this learning journey can shift where you put that expert. So we look at how do you get the most value from those experts in your organization or your providers that are making the transfer journey. Because this is happening as they're transferring the learning. The focus is on the tools and the right equipment that helps me go back to the workplace, try it, connect with someone that's going to solve my problems along the way and keep me going. But they're not there alone. I listened to a really interesting presentation here by Bridge this morning, if any of you heard that one. And they were looking at the role of the manager. And of course, we know the manager's super important. Now we're looking at how do you keep people involved in learning and see it through the resilience of the learner. How do you boost it? 78% of learners say that support from their line manager is essential, not important, essential. But guess what? Less than 30% feel they're actively supported. Well, we know why that is. Managers are a bunch of bad guys. They're not interested. Yeah, nobody cares about the people that work for them. We know that's not the case. Yeah? Now, when we run programs with this kind of structure and you put in a support and a parallel pathway for a line manager, some of the feedback we get is, wow, for once, now I see what that person is going through in a really cut down way. I also know what to expect precisely when they come back to the workplace. Not that they've said, oh, my 3 learning outcomes are this, and now I'm going to put them in action back in the workplace. Sure. What behavioural change can I expect to see as a line manager once my person comes back? And importantly, give me some tips on how I can help and coach them and great questions I can ask to support them through. It's a simple little pack. There's no genius in this, but it's easily missed out of that pathway. So putting this pathway into place really makes a difference. We may be seeing a pathway. So multiple options in here, and again, you've got to use the appropriate learning options for that manager, but it's got to be cut down, it's got to be engaging, involving, for that manager to be able to support the learner through. So they've now got a couple of routes to support. And this is the part where we've shifted from choice, so the personalization happened earlier on, through to the place where we're now engaged and maintaining that engagement through the pathway. So the principles we worked on are taking that decision further down the learning process, doing our responsible job for them. That aligns us to the strategic direction of the organisation, but still providing support. So we're learning over a longer period of time, and that long period of time takes the forgetting curve out the game. We've now got the right tools and, crucially, the people involved that can support them. Because we're driving loyalty from our learners. The next time they go through this pathway, I'm used to it. Now, interestingly, what we see is the managers are really used to it. So the effectiveness of the line managers who engage in the parallel pathway multiplies. Next time round, I get it. I do it quicker as a line manager. I understand where to go, what resources I need, and then I support and move with my people in there. So there's some of the principles we've been working to. So we're going all the way from the Simpsons all the way through to something that we do to try and drive learner loyalty and engagement. That's kind of me done, but if you don't know anything about us, come and talk to us or connect to us. Come September, we've got next series of podcasts coming out. Let's look at some interesting topics, and it talks to people like you, interviews you, and you can see what your peer group is saying about actual digital change and transforming the business. This is an interesting one. When I'm trying to deliver on that strategy, how do I overcome the barriers and objections that I face internally in my organisation? So we're sitting down, we're talking to people that have faced real problems, and they'll tell you when it's worked, when it's not worked, and what they've done about it. Okay. That's it. Well done. You made it through to 4 something or other. 4:28. It's a long day. Thank you.